Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my luxury makeup fails and regrets for 2020. The year isn't quite over yet, but I don't plan to purchase any more holiday makeup. I do have a launch date for the new Chanel lipsticks. They should be available on December 14th, so mark your calendars in case you're interested. But if we do see any of the spring launches, it's not going to be until the very end. So it's basically over, and I've kept a running list on my phone of all of these fails. It's not a crazy long list or anything like that. I generally only purchase products that I think are going to work, and I do a pretty good job, but we do have some fails. I like to keep things positive here in the pink sparkly bubble, so please nobody take offense, nobody get upset if I say that I didn't like something that you really love. Just because I don't like a product doesn't mean it's a bad product, doesn't mean it's not going to work beautifully for somebody else. It just means that it didn't work for me. And I would be remiss if I did not share my honest opinion about these products. In years past, I steered clear of talking about makeup fails. I completely avoided the subject. I didn't want to come across as negative, and I also didn't want to invite that negative energy to my channel where everybody's outraging with their pitchforks. But last year I did create my first fails video, and the feedback I received was fairly positive. From what I understand from you guys, these videos are just as helpful. It's good to know what doesn't work, what does work. We're not always going to agree on everything, but everybody stayed pretty calm. So I decided to pick it up again. From that moment on, I started keeping track. I kept my list of fails so I could remember each one. So the first fail on my 2020 list is the Chanel Brow Palette, which launched earlier this year as part of a big eye campaign. They launched new shades of their waterproof Stilo eyeliner, as well as the new liquid liners, which are beautiful. They came out with a bunch of really pretty colors. The brow palette was a definite fail. I made the mistake of ordering the light to medium versus the medium dark, so I didn't choose the best shade. But I struggled with the palette anyway, and this was such a disappointment because it was replacing their original brow palette, which was also crap. It was garbage. The old palette came with two powders, one lighter, one darker, so you could go lighter in the front of the brow and then build up pigment, but they were too waxy. It was almost impossible to get any product on your brush from the palette. Well, this time they came out with one powder and one wax. It's, I guess, supposed to be a waxy pomade, but it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't have a ton of color, and it doesn't give any hold to the brows, so it's just sort of pointless. I struggled with that palette, so much so that I returned it. I picked it up online, and Chanel is not great with online returns. You're basically not allowed to return anything once you touch it, but I let them know in the comments that I was really disappointed with the product, and I never heard back. They refunded the money, so I was happy that this wasn't a total waste for me. I'd recommend being careful when placing orders directly on Chanel.com. If it's something you know you're going to love, if you're restocking a product, then you're fine. It's actually really convenient because they'll gift wrap things for you, they'll throw in extra little samples. Free overnight shipping is always great. But if it's a product that could go either way, it might be something that you hate and would want to return, just know you could run into some trouble. But everything about this palette was just a disaster. The little tools that came inside, I know they're really meant for travel. You're not meant to use the little tiny tools for baby fingers. They were terrible, but even using my own brushes, I struggled with the product. I couldn't see anything on my brows. It was just kind of messy and light. And I knew that even if I had exchanged it for a darker shade, it wasn't going to be great. It just wasn't right for me. This next fail could be my biggest disappointment of the entire year. Do you remember earlier in the year when all of the brands were coming out with concealers? Well, Dior came out with this Forever Skin Correct concealer. Amazing price, tons of product. Look how giant this concealer is. 11 milliliters, it's 0.37 fluid ounces, which is double or triple some of the other concealers on the market for a really reasonable price. I want to say $36. I hate it. It is terrible. It does not work on me, and I know there are going to be people out there who completely disagree because this had pretty good reviews overall. Anytime a new complexion product is launched, you're going to get mixed reviews because, of course, we all have different skin. I know Michelle Wong really loves this. She mentioned it in one of her favorites videos, and I commented, like, how? How can you love this concealer? It creases on me like crazy. There's nothing I can do. It always creases. I use a teeny tiny bit of product, giant creases. I use a lot of product, tons of creases. Powder, no powder, crease, crease, crease. There was just no trick in the book that could get this to work for me. I even exchanged it for a lighter shade because I wasn't in love with the shade range. That's kind of typical for Dior concealers, unfortunately. But I went with the 00. People had pointed out that you could get the 00 directly on the Christian Dior website. I didn't think my 0 or my 1 was light enough. Well, I got the 00. It still creases. That's really the main problem. Yes, it gives me brightness, but I don't need brightness under the eye. I don't want to draw attention to my under eye area like that if it's just going to be a creasy mess. It's so unfortunate because what a great value for a luxury product. If this works for you, you have it made in the shade. I would say if you have really dry under eyes, this would be really nice for you. It's really creamy, very emollient. But then if you have fine lines, I don't know what to tell you. This is just a disaster for me. Every once in a while I think to myself, ooh, I should try it again, just give it another shot. It's the same thing over and over again. I did hold on to it because I figured, well, I couldn't return it, but I did figure I could maybe use it to highlight the center points of the face, maybe the chin, center, down the bridge of my nose, that sort of thing, just not take it under the eye. I don't really do that because then I have to pull out 2 products, but I would like to use it. I don't want this amount of product to go to waste. I remember somebody else mentioned getting this in their foundation shade and using it as a touch-up because it is such a great value. I love that idea. I could see picking this up in a shade that matches my face and then using it to spot conceal or touch up throughout the day. This one is too light. Now that I have the 00, I couldn't do that. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's such a waste. I don't like spending $3, $30, $300. It does not matter. 30 cents. And having it go to waste. The next fail on my list was the Byredo Hyaluronic Hydra Foundation. Oof. This was really bad. Do you remember when this foundation launched? It must have been spring. This was sent back to Byredo, which Byredo is even worse than Chanel when it comes to returns. They might be the worst brand when it comes to returns. The entire experience was really bad, actually, not just because of their return policy, but getting in touch with customer service was a bit of a nightmare. That was one of my burns, ordering directly from Byredo. I learned my lesson this year. So now if I do want to purchase Byredo, I love so many of their products. They have great products, great brand, don't get me wrong. But I will go through a department store, somebody else, because the website is nearly impossible to get in touch with somebody if you need to. And they're not really that helpful when you do get in touch with them. I want to say this might have been around the beginning of COVID lockdown. So it wasn't like I was going to be able to visit a department store and swatch and get a sample, that sort of thing anyhow. So the shade was bad, but not only was the shade bad, but it was just a bad foundation. You know, I could have mixed it in with other foundations. I could have made the shade work even though it was far too fair. It was way too light. But it was so dry that I just never wanted to put it on my skin ever again. I remember the texture was really thin and watery. You had to shake the bottle and it had a little dropper. And it could have been amazing had it not been so dry. I think at first it was okay, but as it wore on the skin, it just accentuated fine lines. I just did not like the overall appearance. And then add in the fact that it was a couple shades too light and it just looked really bad. So I did send this back. I got in touch with customer service. I think I got my refund maybe 6 months later, something like that, you know, something really reasonable like that. Not a great experience overall, but I'm just happy that that foundation is not rotting in the bottom foundation drawer. I want to say it was $60, so not a terrible price point. It's kind of average for a luxury foundation. So much money to waste. It was worth the fight to get my money back. I would just never recommend this foundation to anybody. I struggle to imagine who that foundation would be good for. I think I said maybe people with oily skin if you need oil control. which is not really what you think of when you hear Hydra foundation, hydrating, hyaluronic acid. But it was just too dry, very light and dry. Not good. Fail might be a strong word for this next product, but I would consider it to be a huge disappointment. It's an eyeshadow palette from Charlotte Tilbury, and while I don't think any of my choices today are controversial, I think this would be the one product that might get some pushback from people, because I heard mixed reviews whenever I first talked about this palette. This is the Super Blue Luxury Palette. She posted a bunch of little mini tutorials and photos with this vibrant blue, shimmering blue eyeshadow. It just looked stunning. This sold out right away, at least in store. I don't know if it sold out online, but I remember this was the most buzzed about palette. In reality, it's just not that good. I find this to be really, really dark. It doesn't have any vibrancy to the shade. The navy, it just looks smoky, kind of muted, and just dark. It's also very chalky, very hard to blend. It doesn't go on really nicely. So it's difficult to get a really nice look. Now, when you layer these two, you can build it up and it looks really nice and vibrant, but you have to really work at it. This goes on a lot more sheer. I mean, you can see really rubbing. Well, now it's built up a little bit, but if I were to swatch that, I mean, just imagine. I was really going hard with that swatch, and that's what it looks like. And that's with the finger. Try applying to the lid with an eyeshadow brush. It would take a lot of work to build this up so that you get an opaque, shimmery blue that looks like this. False advertising feels sort of harsh, but unfortunately, there are times when Charlotte Tilbury posts a photo, even arm swatches, the bronzer swatches earlier in the year, and when I see the product in person and I swatch it on my arm, it looks nothing like the swatch. Well, that is definitely the case with this Super Blue palette. Now, if you just use these shadows, I think you'll be really happy with it, but then what's the point? The purpose of Super Blue is to create really beautiful, vibrant blue looks. I'm not sure I even came up with one that I was happy with, and I did it off camera hoping that I could create the perfect tutorial, come up with that one perfect look that would make this palette worth the purchase. And it never happened. I never filmed that video because I couldn't really get a good tutorial. Every time I did come up with a look using Super Blue, it was hard. You know, I took a lot of time. I had to constantly go back and tweak and then blend. And even then, I wasn't incredibly happy with the look overall. So this was just a bit of a dud. I never touched this palette. Next on my list is the Becca Zero Pigment Foundation and Highlighter. I think I kept the highlighter. I don't know where it is. I don't touch it. I think I got rid of the foundation. I don't even think I held on to it. I don't think anybody's going to fight me on this. I was surprised at the positive reviews and the positive feedback I received when I did this review, because a lot of people said, no, I actually like it. I think your skin looks really nice. It's a great no makeup look. I think this foundation is not a foundation, first and foremost. Words do mean something, so calling a clear gel a foundation, it just feels so gimmicky, and I don't think that was their intention. It's just not a foundation. Don't call it a foundation, and it really didn't work well as a primer. I didn't test it, but I saw a lot of reviews from other people who said that it was pilling, and I found that to be the case with me, is that it just kind of rolled on the skin. So I didn't think it would work really well underneath the foundation either. Apparently it did not. This is for such a specific demographic, and it's for people who don't really like makeup, they don't want to wear makeup, or maybe it's a foundation for teens or young adults if their parents don't want them to wear makeup yet. You get them the Becca Zero Pigment Foundation and tell them it's a foundation. Other than that, this really serves no purpose, does not add value to your makeup collection. It's not going to make your skin look any better than your normal skin. So that was really my problem with it. If I'm wearing foundation, I need it to not just smooth and fill in fine lines and pores, but I want to help conceal little blemishes, or if I have redness, if I have discoloration with my skin, under eye bags, I need something that's going to help perfect the overall face. There are days that I want light coverage, but then I go with the Chanel Water Fresh tint or a tinted moisturizer. You know, there are plenty of light coverage products on the market that still give you a little perfecting, a little enhancement, and they actually give you a nice glow and some sun protection in most cases. So this just really doesn't stand out to me as something that anybody needs. Next on my list of fails is the Rare Beauty Luminizer. And I don't know if you guys watched my review of Rare Beauty. I picked up a couple products. I picked up the blush, the luminizer. What else? I can't think of what else I picked up. It all went back to Sephora. I really did not get along with that brand. Oh, I picked up the foundation. Oh, and the concealer. The concealer was okay, but I didn't really like the foundation. It just clung to dry patches on my face. I think for the right skin type, it would be really beautiful. The blush was a little bit tricky to work with. I think on the right person, it would be beautiful. The luminizer was the biggest disappointment for me because it was just so subtle. It wasn't really that nice. There are so many other liquid illuminators that are so much prettier. I just could not justify spending money on makeup that it would have just sat in the drawer. I would have never picked up any of those other products, unfortunately. I loved the packaging. I love what the brand stands for, the message behind the brand. I will definitely try more Rare Beauty in the future. I actually was sent an eyeshadow palette. I haven't touched it yet, but I am very excited. It looks really pretty. And I commended Selena and her team at the time for going straight into complexion because that is such a tricky category. One foundation is not going to work for all different skin types. So there are going to be people who love it. There are going to be people who don't love it. Doesn't mean one person is wrong, one person is right. It's makeup and we all have different opinions. So nothing from the brand really stood out as a love, but the luminizer in particular just wasn't that great. It was maybe too natural. This is my most recent luxury makeup fail. This is from Byredo. It's their color stick. I purchased Flower Play, $5.93. There are a bunch of these shades online. Ugh, what a waste. I cannot believe I wasted $30 on this stick. Their return policy is also very strict. You cannot return anything. Maybe if you don't try the product you can return, but once it's open, once you test it, you're stuck with it. That was the case for me with this. I really love the lipstick. I just played around with the eyeshadow palette I purchased yesterday. It went really well. I love the eyeshadow. I love their lipsticks. These color sticks are kind of weird. The packaging, first of all, does not feel weighted. It feels really light. So this just feels empty. When you take a look at it, this is the total amount of product. Not very much. I tested this one time, so it's not like I went through a bunch of this product already. This teeny tiny bit of product, this is $30. I didn't choose a very adventurous shade. This is a light pink and it goes on pretty clear. It's just a light pink balm. But the point of the color stick is you're supposed to be able to use it on the face, the eyes, the lips. This barely shows up at all. I would never put that on my eyes. I tried it on my cheeks and you couldn't see anything. And even on the lips. There are lip balms that I prefer to this that are less expensive. So this is just a giant waste. I wouldn't have paid $30 for the lip balm. I was really hoping that I could use this on the cheek. It's just not that great. I have one more fail to mention, and then I have a handful of makeup regrets. So not terrible products, but things that I wish I hadn't have purchased. So this last fail is the Goop Peel Pad. And I know there's a different name, so I will pop up a photo. I tried this earlier in the year. I think it must have been spring, because I remember I had an event a couple days later and I just had to throw on my most full coverage foundation and suck it up and go. But I had the worst reaction to these peel pads, and I do not have sensitive skin. It's been years since I've had a terrible reaction to something. Nothing like this. My entire face broke out in little red bumps all over. And at first I thought, oh, I'm just having a breakout because it's bringing all of the impurities to the surface. You know, like I had got a facial or something. I realized right away that this was not a breakout, that it was actually a bad rash, because it was all over my face. It was not going down. I basically just had to go makeup free for a day or two and then cover it up. It was terrible. It just bad texture, and it felt itchy. It felt really uncomfortable, and I just didn't want to put anything on it because I didn't want to make it worse. And it was because of these goop peel pads. It was so terrible. They had some sort of pineapple extract, some sort of fruit extract, and I really don't know. Was it the active ingredient, or was it some other ingredient in the peel pad that gave me that reaction? I cannot say for sure. I do peels. I put every kind of acid under the sun on my face to help exfoliate. That has never happened to me. I might have a little irritation, a little redness for maybe 30 minutes, and then it completely goes away. This was a rash that lasted about a week. And now here I just have a handful of makeup regrets. These are items that are not terrible. I might even use them occasionally. I just wish I hadn't spent the money. There are better products out there. A couple from Charlotte Tilbury. This first one is the Pillow Talk Lip and Cheek Glow. This is a multiple product. Comes in this little pot. And you're supposed to use this as a cream cheek or a lip. So in a way, I guess it's similar to this glow stick. It's supposed to be a multi-use product. Those things always sound better than they are. I'm always tempted by a multi-use product. It's very sexy. You know, you think you're just going to pull out one stick and rub it all over your face and you'll be beautiful. Your makeup will be done. But it never works out that way. It's always better as a cheek or better as a lip, or sometimes it's just mediocre at both. And that was the case with this. I don't love this as a cheek. I don't really like it on the lips. I prefer the compact more than anything. I think it's really cute packaging. It's very pretty. Nice little mirror in there. This would be great for travel. I wish it looked beautiful. It looks so-so. I want to say it was probably $30 to $35. Complete waste. I never grabbed this. Before I sat down to film, I had to find it and just dig through my drawers to get this out. I had no idea where it was. I feel the same way about this jewel pot. This is the Walk of No Shame jewel pot, and I point that out because I've actually been considering picking up the Pillow Talk jewel pot, but I always sort of talk myself out of it because I remind myself, you don't really like this that much. Why are you thinking about getting the other one? But I think I would like the shade more. I think I would like the product more if it was in that shade, the Pillow Talk, which is a lighter pink. So this packaging I hate. I think this looks really cheap. It's kind of glitter with a clear top. And it's meant to be this jewel pot, really sparkly and beautiful. But this just looks very adolescent to me. The product inside is pretty, but you don't get very much for how much this is. I want to say this was $32 to $34. You got a tiny little bit of eyeshadow, and I expected this to be very extreme. Like this really sparkly jewel, and it actually goes on a bit more sheer. Now I use this product and I always think it looks pretty. This falls into the good not great category. I'm committed to not wasting the money on this product, so I keep this in the top drawer and I try to use it as much as possible, simply because if I go through this pot and I use it all up, then I won't feel bad about spending the money on it. If it ends up just sitting in the drawer, I'll definitely feel like I duped myself. Next I have the Natasha Denona Bronze Cheek Face Glow Palette. I picked up the Love edition that was really pretty and pink and sparkly. This bronze is very beautiful. This is not a bad product. Again, none of these products are bad. They're just products that I don't really love or I never touch. That's the case with this, and I should have known. I should have known because I picked up the pink version and I don't really touch it. I don't know why I was compelled to purchase this. I knew I wouldn't use it, and I don't. I have not touched this since the review. I don't even think these colors are really great for my skin tone. I think this is better for somebody with a little bit more color. I could use this maybe as an eyeshadow, but this doesn't really look that great on my cheeks. This is so-so. This blush and glow right here, I'm not really a huge fan of. This is kind of pretty, but it's that weird putty texture. I'm just sort of confused by the entire quad, I'd never pull this out. I now have 2 palettes like this that I don't touch. Please nobody let me buy any more of these. Save me from myself. My very last regret of the entire 2020, so that's not very many products. I think I did pretty good this year. This is the Pat McGrath Mothership eyeshadow palette in Rose Decadence. This was my first cardboard palette from Pat McGrath. It's very pretty. I think I felt compelled to get this. I felt like I needed this palette because I picked up Divine Rose 2. When this came out, I figured, well, I already bought those other 2, so clearly I need this, which it should have been the opposite, thinking you already have Divine Rose 2. Do not purchase this. Whatever. We all make mistakes sometimes. The colors are pretty. They perform really nice. The texture's great. But how many pink-purple eyeshadow palettes does one person really need? I don't think they need more than 4. I think in the future when it comes to Pat McGrath Labs, if there's something that is really amazing, really unique, really special, I will absolutely jump on the bandwagon and try to purchase and get caught up in the hype. But if it's something like this where I know in my soul I should not be purchasing, I'm just going to go ahead and bow out. And that's why I didn't purchase anything from the holiday collection. I had this on the back of my mind and I thought, you know what? Are you really going to purchase another quad? Are you going to purchase another huge palette with all of these sparkly shades that you're never going to use? Save your money. And that's what I did. I still think about that blue palette every once in a while, the blue quad. That completes my list of luxury makeup fails and regrets for 2020. If you're still here, that means I haven't offended you. Hopefully nobody's angry at this list. It's pretty short considering how much makeup I purchased in a year. I think I did pretty good. And again, some of these products are going to be amazing and loved by other people. It's just my opinion. That's it. Take it with a grain of salt. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments, questions down below. Now it's your turn to sound off. What products would you consider to be a fail? What products do you regret buying? Let us know down below in the comments section. We will keep the conversation going there. As always, I will be linking everything mentioned, everything on my face down in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.